Mr. Krabs in Maryland, you are on the line. What movie did you want to bring up for us tonight?
Hey, I had a little bit of an experience with the movie 27 Dresses when I was dating my partner, who I later married, and kind of like the expectations of romance in Hollywood and how it's really skewed. So I'm not going to go too deep into the plot because I'm sure nobody cares.
Nobody remembers the plot, and I think everybody watching this show right now saw the movie. Like, I think it's fair to say that 105% of our viewers probably caught this romantic comedy from 10 years ago.
Okay, cool. 10 years? No, I think it's like 15 years by this
15?
point.
That might be. You're probably right. The numbers just keep getting bigger and bigger.
Linear progression of time. What are you going to do about it? So my partner saw this movie by herself and really enjoyed it and wanted me to see it. And one of the ways that she tried to convince me was like, oh, the lead love interest, the guy, he reminds me so much of you, talking about me. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. We'll watch this movie. There's going to be stipulations what I won't go into, but sure, we'll watch this movie. And we'll watch this movie, and he steals the lead protagonist's planner. And I'm like, oh no. Oh no. And then he just starts showing up at places where she's at. And doesn't bother to tell her, oh, by the way, here's your planner. That's your entire life. And I'm thinking, it's like, wait. You're trying to tell me that this person reminds you of me. Are you trying to say, like, I'm some weird stalker who will then lie to you? And
I was hoping you were going to tell us that you look like James Marsden, but it does sound a little more insidious the way you describe it.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever been described as James Marsden. That I don't think is something I could pull off. But yeah, it's like, how could you think that I'm this terrible person? He is not a good guy. And you talk about different expectations and romance, like, the guy kisses the girl and everything, turns out to be, better. I think that's, one of the main plot points of the Notebook, which I've never seen. All I know is they were, yelling at each other in the rain. And I mean, how do we tell our partners that these movies are just not good?
Yeah, we could do this show for 100 years, and I don't know that I would come up with quite the right words for letting your partner know that their favorite romantic comedy is not a good movie. I might have to refer you to a totally different show about high conflict relationships or something along those lines. But I hear your point that, a lot of these movies, particularly when we're talking about romantic comedies and sort of like family comedies and things like that, they're not meant to be serious art. And there is room for plots that don't necessarily make sense and for, just a cute vehicle for chemistry and jokes and things like that. And that's all fine. But so many of these movies have like really disgusting behavior, particularly on the part of men, that's incredibly toxic. And if it showed up one time or two times, you would say like, oh, well, it's silly writing. Like, you don't have to get too involved with it. But it feels endemic. I mean, would you agree to that, Dianna?
Yeah, that was one of the things that was part of my like baby feminist awakening, was watching romantic comedies and realizing like that these women are settling for men who are terrible and doing these like super creepy things, like showing up at their work or things like that, and stuff. And so I think part of it is that the movie, because it ends with such a happy ending, and you've got like the wedding and the music swelling and all that, we just sort of forget that it was like that the relationship was like that, or that person had behaved in that way. It's designed for us to be put in the position of the girl being charmed by this man, even as he is behaving in ways that are boundary crossing in normal life. And I'm sure,
Well, is
caller,
it?
that the that your now wife did not mean that she found you as a stalker, but as she found you charming, and was probably thinking of the Benny and the Jets scene where they get drunk in a bar and end up singing together, and that's like the big romantic movement moment of the movie. Um, and stuff. But yeah, it does get into weird territory when you're comparing yourself to when you're comparing your partner, especially to somebody who is a somewhat creepy and cynical stalker in a movie.
It almost seems like the caveman mentality, like, oh, I'm going to conquer or wear
Mhm.
somebody out, and then they'll have no choice. And thankfully after that, she started to see, okay, yeah, no, he really is terrible. And I think the last rom-com that she made me suffer through was Leap Year. And it was, again, I sat her down and I'm just like, look at how terrible this person is.
Mhm.
And she's like, yeah, you're right. I hate it that you're right, but it was. Look, I don't have to see rom-coms anymore, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they have kind of stopped making them in a
Mhm.
lot of ways, and I would like to say it's because we are a post-Me Too, more feminist
Mhm.
society that is more aware of these things, and maybe there's some water in that, but I think it has more to do with like the shrinking of the film industry in the middle,
Mhm.
and how there are like more indie films and big budget films, but not a whole lot of those like affordably made middle budget movies. I don't know. Is it at all fair to say that we're trending in a good direction, Diana? You think there's any truth to that idea?
I think so. I think like you said, there's not really that budget for it. Over the last decade, we've had the Marvel movies explode, and so you have a lot of studios who are trying to recreate that magic, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
And there haven't been a lot of romantic comedies that have been huge box office successes.
It's
And
pretty
stuff.
much
They
like
tend,
just the
yeah,
Netflix original type stuff at this point.
yeah, that sort of stuff, and that has its own
Straight
like
to
niche
Lifetime.
audience. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's a whole separate tier.
yeah, and I think because we have like studios like Netflix that are able to fund more diverse in a lot of ways things, we get movies that are still like romantic comedies, but like are like the half of it, which was a movie I had considered for this show, which is a Cyrano de Bergerac type thing, but with a queer twist where the Cyrano character is played by a woman who realizes that she's in love with the woman uh in the thing, and it turns out very happy, and it's starring like it's the star of it is an Asian actress and stuff, so it's more diverse than most romantic comedies. And I think with smaller studios making movies like that, we're seeing a lot more emphasis on things that are just better stories, because there's a lot more noise that people have to go through to get there with all the like internet studios and
Mm-hmm.
streaming. So
Yeah, so ultimately, Mr. Krabs, I think the takeaway here is that traditionally when we watch these movies, all we're seeing is that the plot is set up, the music is set up, the lighting is set up, the cinematography is set up. Everything is set up to message over and over again, this guy is charming.
mhm.
Of course, when we actually look at the plot, not so much charming as like creepy, but when your partner is looking at you and thinking about this movie, or watching this movie and thinking about you, I think you can take that as a win, even if maybe the message for us more generally is that, oh boy, we should be a little bit more mindful of the messages that we're taking in.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd rather be compared to like, a Tony Stark character or maybe a Captain America character by this point, especially since I definitely don't look like any of them.
Well, it's the modern era of films. There are fewer romantic comedies to compare you to, and a lot more big action tent poles. So, yeah, I guess just find that action hero that you think you might be able to pull off, and then drop some subtle hints.
Yeah.
All right.
But thank you so much for giving us a call tonight, and good luck. I'm glad to hear this relationship has survived its stalkery beginnings.
Oh yeah, going 10 years married. So,
hey, good on you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a great night.
You too.
Yeah, I like to be a progressive humanist. I like to be somebody who believes that we are learning our lessons and that we're getting better. Maybe I am just getting more persnickety and more turning into like more of a skeptical, judgy asshole as I age, but I'm not entirely convinced.